MAP project. The MAP team is the gentleman that provides this unit. Early on in his horse training career, Scott became more interested in why certain techniques were effective than how to just perform those maneuvers. This led to a lifelong quest of understanding behavioral and biomechanical aspects of animals in training to create a different level of understanding and cause and effect of training focused in these areas. He and his wife developed a breakthrough perspective, a 12-step program for improving your relationship with your horse. From those studies and techniques, Scott got involved in Bigfoot researcher after an encounter of his own in 2005. He is currently applying the philosophies he learned as a horse trainer to develop a program of interaction and study with the North American Great Ape. And his co-partner up here, Don Stockton, he is the MABRC Missouri Co-State Director and is co-founder of the MABRC's Missouri Ape Project, along with Scott. 20-plus years of research experience under his belt, with specialty in the construction and utilization of homemade parabolic microphones for recording audio. Don is very active in field research in Missouri and collaborates openly with members of many organizations.
Everybody's wanting to go eat, so we probably ought to get through our research pretty quick. So, hey, we're the Missouri Map team. We're here today. We're going, oh, in that state of Missouri. Sorry about that. I want to see who was awake. Again, the Show Me Sasquatch, the MABRC Missouri, we've been kind of working on what we refer to. We've gone to kind of a team focus at different times in the MABRC. The MAP team, the Missouri Ape Project, is just an extension of that. And concentrating specifically on Sasquatch activity and investigations in the state of Missouri. And over the years, we've had a chance to bring in some really wonderful people into the organization. Don and I researched together quite a bit before we kind of got into this. And over time, we've really added some extremely talented people in the group.
Can't hear you, Stuck.
Still can't hear me?
Yeah, here, well, we'll just pass off microphones maybe, I don't know. But, you know, at the time, I was only aware of 2 or 3 different researchers in the state of Missouri. Maybe up to 4. For a while, there was a team way down in the south that was kind of an independent group. Every once in a while, you hear something out of it. But there really hasn't been a concentrated effort in Missouri. And a lot of people don't realize this, but Missouri may be as lousy with Sasquatches as Oklahoma is. Especially in the Ozark regions down south. But then we started identifying new areas where nothing had happened before. The Missouri River Bluff areas up through there, there's a tradition of sightings that goes back into the 30s, 40s. Of course, down in the Ozarks, you'll probably hear more about that a little later. I'm not going to even go there because, you know, I don't want to take somebody else's speech away from them. But throughout the state, there's a lot of habitat that these creatures seem to appreciate. A lot of people don't realize that up till a few years ago, Missouri had more miles of inland waterway than any other state in the union. We've got lots of hills, we've got lots of bluffs, we got a lot of places that this animal is attracted to. And after you get into this a little bit and you start studying things, you find out that there is a long history in certain parts of the state of Missouri with different sightings and different encounters.
What is that special back and forth again? I want to work.
I might try this out.
So Scotty and I got together in 2010. We started doing this thing. I want to give you a little bit of the history. Now, Scott came up with this idea. Me and I got 2010. He wanted to put a team together. There was a little bit of a problem with that concept because at the time that was me and Scott. And Brian Brown was back there in the corner. And and we're in 30 different areas of the state. We're all the way over by St. Louis. And I was up by Kansas City, I'm down south. And it was kind of a difficult thing for us at first. And we started recruiting people, we were giving ERCs for them. And, wow. Wait till you see what we did in 2013. We really got this thing up and running. I've been amazed at the levels of activity that we have found in areas that I've been in my entire life. I've hunted and fished in western Missouri my entire life. I'm finding things that back then I would have never noticed. Now I know things I should have picked up on before. And this is an outing from one of our first outings. This is an 18-inch track that we found on Sunday. That we found in another foot. There's a little story involved in that beer can that we'll be going into here in just a little bit. I think Scotty wants to show you a couple of things about the formation.
Well,
Can you hear me? If I just stop.
You'll need a mic.
well, we're sitting here, and I'm gonna let Don kind of talk about this item right here, but this was about the second trip Don had ever joined me on, and we just popped into a place because it looked good. And we found a parallel trail off of the standard trail where we identified this particular marker. If you notice, one of them sticks looks a little older than the other one. There's a story behind that. Don had never gotten a really close look at an X. So we take a look at the X, and Don touches it, and it breaks. The whole thing hits the ground. We turn around to walk on up the trail, and the next thing you know, Don gets beamed with a rock. So we couldn't see where it came from. The foliage was pretty thick, but we kind of figured at that point in time that possibly we could be in a fairly decent area. So we continued on the trail a little bit, and found more structures like this. And this was just kind of one of our initial gatherings. Now I'm going to let him talk about this right here.
Well, actually, I had that study to talk about at the end of our presentation. It works just fine. We stopped where we found that X. And we stopped in the trail, and it seemed to always happen with Scotty and I. When we stop and basically one of us sees something. In this particular instance, when I turned around, I looked to say something to Scotty, and there's this beer can hanging in midair. It looked like it's just floating up there. I thought, well, okay, that's kind of odd. So we walk over to check it out, and right next to it is where I found this little X formation, which I thought was pretty cool. And it's kind of, you can't really tell from that picture, but it's held in place at the base by another log. And it's propped up between two trees. And I think that's pretty cool. I took a couple pictures of it, and I walked over and I shook it a little bit, and that little darker colored piece wasn't as sturdy as I thought it might be. And the whole thing dropped to the ground. I'm like, wow, I'm just thinking, that's not cool. 10 seconds later, I get beat with a rock. And Scott's like, what's the matter with you? And I'm like, did you see that rock? A rock was bounced on the back of my skull. It did not fall from above me. It hit me behind the ear. Actually left a welt on the back of my head. It hit me so hard. And I'm thinking, Scott, this might not be better. Go ahead. Anyway, to get back to our team. Scotty wanted to write down people. And we want people that are grounded in scientific facts. We're not talking about shape-shifting and UFOs, although I do my fair share of UFO and paranormal investigation. We're talking about a primate. We're talking about a living, breathing animal. And those are the kind of people we're looking for. Unfortunately, when we start talking about UFO and Bigfoot researchers, and luckily for me, I'm a paramedic, so I'm kind of used to dealing with people that have that A-type personality. You know, we're lone wolves. I'm my own boss. You don't tell me how to do anything. Try putting that together in a team and going out in the woods together can be quite a challenge. And as you're gonna find as we go through our presentation, and when Randy comes up a little later this afternoon, the thinking outside of the box, yeah, we got that covered. We've tried some pretty unique things in the last 2 years, and I'm very proud of where we're at and what we've accomplished so far. And here's our secret weapon. This is the thing I want to talk about the most. I think you guys in Oklahoma probably already got this going on. We went to each one of our research areas independently this year, as a group, as a team. Bring somebody else into your research group. Bring another researcher in. They don't have to be a brilliant mind or anything. Just somebody else with a different pair of eyes to come in and look in your area. They will see things in minutes. They will come up with ideas you haven't thought of trying. And as a team, as a group, every time we go out, it gets better because we're trying more things and we're sharing experiences with each other. And we're starting to develop some pretty interesting theories about your tree structures and manipulations. If you folks make it out here tomorrow, we're going to do our presentation entirely on that tomorrow.
Early this year, we all got together at what was just going to be common ground. And I don't know if you guys have ever had a chance to visit the beautiful Bennett Springs State Park here in South Central Missouri. But we decided that that was going to be one of the most central places that we could meet. It was early in the year. We just wanted to have kind of a get-together to get to know some of the newer people in the group and introduce them to different people in the area. And so, Darren, if you would, please. So we met it's quite a bunch assembled there. We were fortunate enough to have Darkwing and Dio join us. And there's a pretty good group assembled right here. We had a couple of guests with us that's got some independent investigations going on. But this is essentially the group that met there, and we decided we'd try to get in a little field time in and around the rules of the park. And but Darren, if you would, please. And I wasn't there the first night, but I'm gonna let.
Yeah, we scouted this 2 weeks before we decided to have the meeting, and it was really nice weather. It was great. This is going to be an awesome expedition. And we get there, we're ready to go, and we poured rain. Just literally poured rain all weekend long. But we muscled through it. We decided, you know what, we're going to bundle up and we're going to go out and look around a little bit. And, you know, I think we hit on something that day. Because we did something that they weren't expecting. We went hiking down their trails in the rain, but everybody had any sense at all. It was at a shelter somewhere. And we had a lot of activity that day. Actually, through the whole weekend. We just took a couple of group pictures of us out in the woods. This little intricate thing was right on the entrance of a gate hiking trail. Literally within 10 feet of an outhouse. And that's something that, if you haven't picked up on that yet, the curiosity is their weak spot. If you're doing something unusual, they're really interested in that for some reason. This is right next to a playground. It's also right next to Bennett Springs, where people wait around in the freezing cold water trying to catch a itty-bitty fish. And I honestly think they sat up there for hours and watched people do that kind of thing.
Now, I'm just pointing this out. We're going to get into this a little more tomorrow about what we look for. But this is the kind of habitat we seek out whenever this creature needs to feel comfortable in its environment. It needs to feel safe. It needs to feel protected. The more trees, the more brush you get, the happier this critter is. And
Bennett Springs is very, very typical of the type of habitat that we seek out. So that just gives you an indication right there. It's a mess. I mean, it's not the kind of place most folks would just go walking through. And if you go ahead and you take that area right there into July, and you put a bunch of foliage on those leaves and trees and everything else, you've got a place where maybe you can see 10 foot into the woods from the trail. Provides them lots of opportunity to move through there unobserved. So, if you would, Darren. We're going to get into this a little bit more tomorrow. This is one thing we look at when we first notice an area. We go in and we start looking for these little manipulations. And, you know, this just initially looks like it's just a bunch of sticks that fall down. But if you notice, if you look at this stick would be run through here, this here. There is a design to that. This is going on. It's interlocked in ways that it couldn't fall. This particular structure right here appears to have been manipulated. So that's something that kind of gets me excited when I look at some new habitat. If you would there. Of course, you see the terrain in the area. A lot of bluff, a lot of places where something can be above you or below you and observe you. If it needs to move, there's lots of different ways out of that particular area. If an animal felt uncomfortable, it could take off one of several ways. We had an expedition meeting before we set off that morning, and our medical officer, Don, here, had explained things. Of course, the first thing we did, the only difference between the Boy Scouts and the Missouri MABRC is that the Boy Scouts have adult supervision. And everybody took off to the winds, and were all kinds of places we suggested they probably shouldn't be. But it was a pretty good trip, and we are going back again next spring. And we had a bunch of fun and a couple of pretty cool things later. Darren. Now see, there's a little bit more on the structure issue, and you can see how things have been crossed and laid across. So, all right, we got a lot more to go through, so we probably ought to kick the ribs a little. All right, this is a black cow at night.
A little background, this is down south of the Brady and Bernie's area. I had a bad habit when I first started doing this in the group. I found something really cool and I snapped this road. And that's kind of cool for a background thing. You really want to describe like something is interesting. There's only a picture of a bunch of trees. That's quite a bit like a picture of a bunch of trees. If you don't put some kind of reference point in it. So I made this little video of a little structure that I found. Let me get it to play. Audio is really quiet. I'm actually inside this structure made out of 3 bows. It's held in place by that one dead stick. Tomorrow we'll talk more about structures. I think that what we commonly refer to, in our group at least, as a bus stop, is where they stop to make sure everything's cool before they try to cross a wide open area, across the road. And you'll find that an almost identical structure on the opposite side of that road, if you look at it there. Now this was a fun one. This one's at home. This is Brian Conway and I's main research area. This thermal picture was taken by one of our new guys who actually isn't a picture, isn't a member yet. We had something trailing us on the outskirts of our camp that night, and they thought they saw movement. And this guy has taken his iPhone, and he's come up with a way to mount it to his night vision, so he can take pictures with his night vision through his iPhone. And this is the photo he caught, and we've got a couple other images of the same picture in different color contrast. So you can see how consistently that long arm that appears to be swinging forward as it comes forward. That's like what Randy described earlier when we saw that one moving. That long arm hangs down. And if you look at it in the other two images, you'll see that it does not change. our photo analyst, I don't have a copy of the report with me, but he stated that this